Dryfire laser cartridges are a mixed bag when it comes to training. They can be helpful for dryfire training in very specific contexts, but outside of those specific use cases, they can actually be harmful. So when is it appropriate to dryfire train with a Dryfire laser training cartridge? Well, the primary use case for these devices, in my opinion, is ideally when you have double action only magazine-fed handguns. Double action only pistols will have the same heavy trigger pull every time you pull the trigger of the handgun, meaning that in dryfire training, your trigger pull is going to be exactly the same as when shooting live ammo. So if this is your context, then dryfire laser cartridges are amazing. You can also make the case that when dryfire training with these devices, it would also make sense if you have a single action or double action handgun. So we're talking about many of the SIG handguns here, or CZ handguns, Taurus, a few other vendors. In these situations, usually the first trigger pull will be double action, with every trigger pull after being single action. The potential training pitfall here is that you'll be dryfire training with double action mode all the time, so when you get to the actual range, your trigger pull is going to feel a little different. Moreover, if you're running an external hammer single action gun like a 1911, or a striker fired gun like a Glock, the laser training cartridges will not reset the firearm action. Since the trigger only serves one primary function, which is releasing the hammer, or on striker-fired guns, defeating the internal safety and releasing the striker, the triggers will not hit the cartridge with a second strike unless the firearm slide is reciprocated. So for many people, you see this weird dry-fire training where users are racking the slide a quarter of the way between shots just to get the striker to reset. I used to dry-fire train this way too. The main problem is that you won't be able to really drill target transitions effectively, so while it may be helpful to a new shooter, experienced shooters will see no value in this over time. Moreover, you may actually introduce training scars. Some trainers are fearful that under stress you might actually start doing what you dryfire train at home, and that is start racking the slide between shots in a self-defense situation. I think that's FUD lore, to be honest. I've never heard of one real-life use case of somebody doing that, but I suppose it is possible. The bigger problem that I think is a legitimate concern is you could get used to only racking the slide part way, just far enough to reset the striker, when you really mean to chamber a round. Now, obviously, we advocate for carrying with one in the chamber, but let's say after cleaning your pistol, you accidentally don't rack the slide far enough and you don't realize it, but you don't actually have one in the chamber. I actually had this happen to me twice during a training class, and in training classes, as you know, you're always loading and unloading for safety reasons. Late in the day on an 8-hour training class, it happened twice that I didn't fully seat around while taking the class with my Glock 26. I do think this was in part because I trained so frequently using these laser dryfire cartridges. Even if you have a laser dryfire cartridge and a striker-fired handgun, these still have utility for a few different things. I like to use them for initial dial-in whenever I'm mounting a red dot to get me close when I hit the live fire range. The zero on the laser dryfire cartridges tends to be pretty true, so it's great to get that initial windage dialed in, and it usually only requires slight elevation adjustments when hitting the live range at that point. Similarly, I like to use them for drawing from the holster training, because you only need to get that first shot on target, trying to get faster at drawing from the holster. Like we do with our draw stroke mode in Project Mars, it's a very applicable use case where these things rock. However, not being able to do target transitions if you have a striker-fired handgun is a major drawback of these. Instead, I recommend using a sound-activated laser with a dryfire mag, which allows you to dryfire train semi-automatically with a striker-fired pistol, or utilize a dedicated replica like a Cert 110 training pistol. I have reviews for both of these products on my channel. So at the end of the day, those are my thoughts on these devices. If you felt I missed anything, please leave your feedback in the comments. As always, have a great week, and we'll see you next week with another video.